Hello everyone, welcome back to Horror Mystery Rewind. Today we will talk about the mystery thriller movie Where the Crawdads Sing released in 2022. Please let us know if the explanation makes sense or if any change is needed. Spoilers ahead, enjoy and take care of yourself. Two young children are riding their bicycles through the North Carolina woods on 30th October 1969 when they come to find a dead body. They instantly make a help request out of fear. Two police officers show up shortly after and begin looking into the crime scene. One of them mentions that the deceased was the wealthy entrepreneur's son Chase Andrews. The absence of footprints in the surroundings is surprising. When the police see a neighboring tower, they decide to climb it since they think Chase fell from it. They discover a damaged grill when they finally reach the top. Both of them are divided by this. While the other officer thinks it was an accident, the first one feels Chase was pushed and killed. The corpse's autopsy report is released at the scene after that. It demonstrates that Chase did indeed pass away from the impact of the fall, but something doesn't seem right. He should have been lying facing down given his injuries, but he was not. When the police hear this, they immediately assume it's a murder. They lack any supporting evidence, not even fingerprints. Fortunately, the doctor is aware of where to begin. He hands them a scrap of red fabric that he discovered on Chase's body. Later, as the police are relaxing in a bar, they overhear some people talking about the most recent murder investigation. Since Kya Clark, a local girl, and Chase had a rough past, they all believe that she is the murderer. With this knowledge, the police get closer to Kya's home. It is a small house located near a swamp. They discover a collection of books and shells as they search the area. They also manage to get their eyes on a red cap that might be made of the same material as the fiber discovered on Chase's corpse. Kya is seen in the woods hidden from them during this time. She tries to flee at a convenient time, but the police ultimately catch up with her. In response to their question, Kya remains silent when asked why she was escaping. She is consequently taken into custody. She is afterwards seen imprisoned in a cell. Tom Milton, a local attorney, appears and asks if she might be interested in his services. Kya, though, says nothing. It almost seems as if she is covering up a very serious matter. Tom tries to persuade her by revealing that she is going to be put on trial for murder. She will undoubtedly be found guilty at a court hearing that is coming up shortly. When Kya hears this, she feels frightened and ultimately shares details about her life. She begins by talking about her early years, and then the scene cuts to a flashback. Kya resided with her parents, 4 siblings, and them in 1953. Although it would seem like they are a happy family at first appearance, the reality is quite the reverse. Her alcoholic father constantly punishes her mother without justification. So, after having had enough, she suddenly leaves one day. Her 4 siblings all eventually left the house one by one after this. Kya is now in the care of her alcoholic father. The latter seizes a type of food called prawns from a surrounding wetland. Kya also tries to help her father out at work. When they have finished their collection for the day, they go to a nearby store to sell it. Mrs. Mabel, the shop owner, is a generous person who frequently gives Kya food and clothing. Even when she enrolls the young child in school, the bullies immediately attack her. She leaves as a result, vowing never to return. She and her father get closer as the days go by, and he begins to act nicely as well. When Kya receives a letter from her mother one day, she asks her father to read it for her because she is uneducated. Unfortunately, after reading it, he explodes in anger and tells the young girl, "Your mom is not coming back." Then the alcoholic dad grabs all of her mother's possessions and burns the house. Little Kya is quite upset about what happened, but she had no idea that this was only the beginning of her issues. When she awakens the following morning, she discovers that her father has also vanished. No one is now taking care of her. However, Kya never gives up. She gathers and sells oysters from the wetland in order to pay for items. Mrs. Mabel occasionally lends a hand with her grocery shopping as well. Back in the present, Kya receives a magnificent outfit from Mrs. Mabel and chooses to wear it for her initial court appearance. Tom, her attorney, advises that she confess to the crime while making it seem like an accident. She could spend up to 8 to 10 years in prison as a result. Kya wants to leave prison as quickly as possible, yet she insists that she is not a killer. When the court begins, Chase's family attorney makes every effort to establish Kya's guilt. He emphasizes that nobody else would have a more compelling reason to murder Chase. Although Kya adored him and desired to wed him, he consistently resisted. She most likely called him to the tower for this reason before throwing him out of it. The crowd begins to turn against Kya after hearing all of this. They are certain that she committed the murder. Thankfully, Tom also proves to be a skilled attorney. He claims it is unfair to accuse Kya without any proof because no footprints were discovered at the crime scene. She enters yet another flashback in the meantime. The year is 1963, and Kya has evolved into a stunning young lady. She still manages everything on her own and lives alone in her home. Due to her growing passion in nature, Kya spends her spare time simply wandering the woods and enjoying the peace. But one day, a lovely feather is left for her by someone. She gets another one the next day. Kya has a number of these feathers as well as letters towards the end of the week. Then, one night, a man by the name of Tate Walker comes up to her and confesses that he is the one who has been giving those gifts. When he asks if she read the letters, Kya says in a sorrowful tone, "I can't read." Fortunately, Tate is a wonderful guy who is always willing to assist. He begins teaching Kya how to read and write. They get together in the woods and write for the first few days. Kya takes Tate home with her once she feels secure enough and requests him to teach whatever he can. Slowly but surely, Kya's smile returns, and their relationship grows stronger. The following scenario reveals that Tate is a dedicated student who aspires to be admitted into a reputable university. He has submitted applications to a handful and is awaiting replies. He once offers Kya the chance to accompany him to the city, but she turns him down. Kya, who has lived her entire life in a wetlands, feels out of place in the city. Tate gives up because he is certain that she won't change her mind. After several months, the two have now started dating. They frequently go for walks or hang out in the woods. One day, things get so romantic between them that they almost end up having intercourse. Tate retracts his threat at the last minute, claiming he doesn't intend to hurt her in any way. He worries about getting her pregnant. Tate eventually receives the information he has been seeking for the next day. His dream school, Dartmouth, accepts him. As soon as he tells Kya the good news, she reacts negatively rather than joyfully. As it turns out, she is opposed to his departure. Tate says that he wants to do something with his life and that the opportunity to attend Dartmouth is one he won't have again. Kya, who has never studied in a classroom, believes it to be a waste of time and resources. All boys are the same, she says as she flees. For some days, they remain distant from one another. Tate, however, pays a visit to Kya at her house and spends some time there on the night before he departs. The following morning, he clarifies that she is incredibly knowledgeable about the local flora and animals. Tate gives her a list of major publishers and advises her to write a book and submit it to them. Kya expresses her gratitude and inquires as to whether their romance is over. Tate replies that he will meet her on 4th July and makes this commitment. After he leaves, Kya resumes her routine existence. She now has a task to keep her busy, though. She has begun writing books about the local flora and fauna, as Tate advised. A few months pass by and it's finally the 4th of July. Early in the morning, Kya makes her way to the beach to greet Tate. Sadly, even after waiting for hours, he never shows up. Kya sobs uncontrollably, believing that he has abandoned her for another woman. Back in the present, the officer who initially looked into the case is summoned to court. He immediately starts supporting Chase and claims that there were no foot or fingertip impressions on or around the deceased. He thinks someone removed them skillfully. Tom responds by pointing out that high tides, which are common in the area, may have washed off the prints. He then produces a complaint from a year ago that claims the tower is seriously damaged. Anyone climbing it is risking their own lives. When the crowd hears this, they all become puzzled, and Kya wins the case. The film then cuts back to the past once more, this time to 1968. Since Tate's departure was over a few years ago, Kya has moved on. She discovers several government representatives inspecting her home one day. She asks Mrs. Mabel about it, and she responds that they are investors buying land to construct hotels. Kya is shocked by this because she is reluctant to leave the house in any way. She therefore gets all the papers required for her home and gives it to the developer. Even though it is clear that she is the owner, there is still a challenge. Kya will have to pay off the pending tax, which amounts around $800. Kya turns to writing since she is unable to make them by selling shells. She ultimately completes a book after several weeks of time and dedication and sends it to all the publishers from Tate's elevator. When visiting the beach one day, Kya meets Chase, a charming young man. They are definitely aware of one another yet choose not to speak. Chase, however, confidently invites her out on a date when they reconnect the next day. Kya, who hasn't been in a relationship in years, answers right away with yes. The two begin dating as a result, and they start spending most of their time together. Kya's face also begins to regain its smile. One of the publishers replies to her one day, stating that they are prepared to print some copies of her book. Kya is thrilled by the information, and when she tells Chase, he surprisingly proposes to her. After giving him a brief moment of attention, Kya agrees. She wears a seashell necklace around his neck as a sign of approval. Chase's mother has shown up in court right now to offer her testimony. She says that after her kid passed away, the necklace was not discovered near his body. She speculates that Kya killed him, took his jewelry, and then got rid of all the evidence. Tom advises them against jumping to conclusions based solely on a missing necklace. Back in 1968, Tate finally returned home after receiving his Dartmouth degree. Unfortunately, he notices Kya spending time with another man at the very first opportunity. He overhears Chase criticizing Kya the following day when he is working at the port. He quickly challenges Chase, and they start fighting. Fortunately, a few other workers quickly divide them. He visits Kya's residence that evening and claims that he was unable to return since he was too preoccupied with his academics. However, knowing how valuable she is, he will never abandon her. Tate claims that Chase is a horrible person who enjoys playing with the emotions of other girls. Unfortunately, Kya doesn't accept any of it, so she tells him to go. She only wants to be with Chase right now. Kya unfortunately finds out one day that Chase is actually engaged to another woman. She immediately stops their relationship since this breaks her heart. However, she is not in a bad situation. The following morning, Kya receives the book she self-published and a $5,000 check. Additionally, she must travel to Greenville for a significant news conference. Kya promptly pays the house tax since she is overjoyed to have made such a significant sum of money. She renovated her house with the money left over. When it appears that Kya has forgotten about Chase, he unexpectedly re-enters her life. He makes an attempt to pretend that he solely loves her, but Kya is taking none of this. She begs him to leave her life, but Chase pushes himself on her instead. She hits him in the head with a rock after nothing else works. Kya issues a final warning to Chase, stating that if he bothers her once more, she will kill him. She mostly stays hidden in the days that follow in an effort to avoid being spotted by Chase. After a week, she finally makes her way to Greenville to attend the news conference. Back in the present, Tom tries to prove that Kya wasn't in the city when the murder took place. In fact, she was in Greenville, attending a press conference. Tom claims that it is virtually impossible to leave on a bus for home, kill a man, remove all the evidence, and then get back on the bus. Lastly, he just states that justice should be done before drawing to a close. The judge ultimately makes a judgment after a while. He replies, "Not guilty." Additionally, he expresses regret to Kya for all the charges and the time she spent in jail. The two get married after Kya and Tate make amends in the following scene. They begin to live peacefully in the wetlands and continue their previous work. Kya dies in her preferred boat more than 50 years later. Tate discovers one of his late wife's older books while sorting through his late wife's possessions in the closing scene. It contains a chapter titled "Sometimes for the prey to live, the predator must die." Following this, Tate discovers a sketch of Chase and the identical locket Kya had given him. Its staining with blood proves that she was indeed responsible for his death.
If you like the video, subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and click on like to help the channel out. Thank you and take care.